Good evening. It's 6:30, so let's start this business meeting of Urbana School District 116. A roll call, please.
Member Stanton,
Yep.
Member Baxley,
Here.
Member Jones,
Here.
Member Langendorf here, Vice President Exon,
Here.
President Polowski.
Here, are there any corrections, additions, or modifications to tonight's agenda? No. Saying none, it's now time. Are there any, are there any accommodations or recognitions to do tonight? No. Okay. Now it is time for citizen statements. If anybody wishes to make a statement before the board, there is a goldenrod sheet right in the back corner of the room there. Please fill one out and hand it to our recording secretary, Lori Johnson. First up tonight is Emma Ehrenhardt.
It's green now. All right. I would like to address Dr. Ivory Tatum's statement last meeting that, quote, a lot of the voices who now that decisions have landed on their people's doorsteps and people are engaged who maybe weren't engaged in listening 2 years ago, end quote. 2 years ago, I did not have a student in the district. Members on this board have discredited community input from individuals without children currently in the district. So had I been engaged 2 years ago, how valued would my voice have been since I did not have a student in the district yet, even though these changes will impact my students' entire education with the district? A year ago, when I finally had a student in the district, there was no new parent packet that tells you that important district-altering information is shared almost exclusively in board meetings. I operated under the assumption that community input would be sought, not that I would have to try and learn the operations of the district on my own. But let's pause on that line of thinking. I don't agree with this, but let's say the blame is on me for not being informed on how to engage with the district 2 years ago. Let's be clear, the options on the table today were not being discussed 2 years ago. 2 years ago, there was not discussion of replacing Yankee Ridge or Thomas Paine with a dual language school. In fact, informally, some families were explicitly told Yankee Ridge was not being considered as a dual language school. 2 years ago, the French dual language program was not being considered as part of the dual language school. Again, French dual language families were told specifically that they would not be included in a dual language building. 2 years ago, there was no mention of a 6th grade center. The first mention of Yankee Ridge or Thomas Paine as the potential dual language school was December 5th of 2023. So it has not been 2 years. It has been a little over 3 months. The 6th grade center was approved 8 months after the concept was initially presented in February 2023. I agree with Salali's sentiment last meeting. If the district had been transparent 2 years ago and effectively engaged and communicated to families and the community, we would not feel disregarded by central office. So now, rather than feeling included in a difficult decision, we are left feeling that something is being done to the detriment of our students. If I had been given any notice of the full-scale implications of these decisions, I would have asked the same thing then that I am asking for now, a strategic plan. And let's be clear, while I was not here 2 years ago asking for a strategic plan, there were other parents and community members that were here 2 years ago asking for a strategic plan. So where is it? What exactly have you accomplished in the last 2 years? But now, since you took little to no action, now we have to rush through things. I know our students are hurting now, but overcrowding our elementary schools because we cannot effectively recruit or retain teachers is only going to exacerbate our teacher shortage, failing test scores, and behavioral problems in our elementary schools, which then only sets them up for further failure in the middle school. Furthermore, creating a 6th grade center that is not clear that we can actually financially afford, especially without serious hindrance to our ability to address any other facility needs for the next 10 to 15 years. We will have 4 years of interest-only payments, which will last longer than some current board members and administrators' contracts. That is not action you take without full understanding and community support, especially not with the justification that we haven't done anything, so now we have to do something. Something without a plan or understanding to future implications is irresponsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Tara Hawkins.
I am writing this as a longtime staff member of Urbana School District 116. I'm just wanting my voice heard as the changes that are being proposed will have a great impact on not only myself, but also my kids and their families. As I sat in the opening session on August 14th, 2024, I was asked to think about my why for working in this district. Of course, at first, I was like, that's an easy question. My why is my kids and families that I work with and have worked with for the last 22 years. But as the school year has progressed and things have been put on the table about our school possibly being disbanded, my why became much more to me. My why is the people I work with daily. These people have become my second family. When I first started in this school, I was welcomed with open arms and have been treated amazingly ever since. We have been through divorces, marriages, death, and births. We have attended each other's weddings and stood by each other through some very tough times. My relationships with these teachers and staff have become one where I can go for anything, and in turn, they know I have their backs whenever they need it. We are a very cohesive unit with the best interests of our students in mind. My why is the 5th grade student that I have known since they were little. I had their older sibling in my program. Being their helping voice in a situation where they felt no one was listening. Standing by their side as they are navigating the hardships of 5th grade and being their safe space to come and tell me what's going on. Being that constant in their life, and they know I will be there when they need it. My why is the 4th grade student who moved from Wiley this year and was separated from their best friend, who had a very tough start to the year and felt like the world was against them and that no one loved them. From having severe behavior issues and not wanting to come to school, to now coming in every morning excited and ready to tackle the day. The change was that the teacher and I saw their needs, came up with a plan that fits them perfectly. They get a punch card every morning and have goals they must meet to get punches. Their whole mood has changed for the better because we took the time to form a relationship with them and let them know that we will be here no matter what. My why is the 2nd grader who has been through more trauma than we know, but trusts me enough to help them navigate their feelings. When they are stuck in the classroom or choose to make questionable choices, the teachers and other staff know they can call me to come help. Building a relationship with this child was one of the best things I have done this year. My why is for the kindergartner who was in before school only, but when the caring place at Carl closed, they became a full-time participant. This child does not do very well with change, and they have become so comfortable in our program. They were even worried about us the day that we came in when it was icy and school closed. They wanted to make sure we got all home safe. My final why is probably one of my biggest. In my profession, I have had the privilege of working with many multiple kid families. This means I have had their older siblings and get to meet the younger ones. I have even seen some of them as brand new babies. This coming year, I will be getting a kindergartner who I've been waiting for and who has been waiting to be with me. Making the change proposed might take this opportunity away from me, and it breaks my heart. This is just my why. If you were to speak to any staff member at Yankee Ridge about their why, you would find it is remarkably similar to what I have just shared. You may be wondering why Yankee Ridge staff has not taken the time to publicly share in the same way I have. The truth is, many of these staff members do not feel their voices are being heard and that their why is being taken away through the decisions being made. We are constantly told that we need to engage in self-care practices and that social-emotional learning is the bedrock of everything we do with our students. How can these things happen when we feel the pressure and need to fight battles and put out fires that are now happening outside of our classrooms?
Thank you. Kristen Doty and the Yankee Ridge staff, please.
Thank you, Board, Dr. Ivory Tatum, and admin for the time and attention you have given the decision to create a dual language school. We appreciate the time that the Human Resources Department has spent gathering information about this transition. However, due to some previously made statements, the Yankee Ridge staff would like to clarify a few misconceptions. Our silence or absence does not mean agreement or acceptance. The YR staff respect and honor all of your positions and decisions that have been made thus far to improve the situations of our USD colleagues and students. But our absence at these meetings have occurred due to the time and 100% effort that we put in every day just to get learning to happen. We are tired, defeated, and in need of rest. Continuing to fight at 7 p.m. is a daunting thought. Even more so when the prevailing feeling is that our voices and ideas aren't considered, and that these decisions have already been made. But since it appears this is our only avenue, let us be clear. Yankee Ridge teachers are mad. We're not mad simply to be mad. We're not mad because we have to pack up our things. We're not mad because we might have to work at DPW or Thomas Paine or King or Leo. We are mad because we don't feel our community, teachers, families, and students have been treated with care and empathy. And by care, we mean transparency. Many of us were under the impression that we were not among the schools being considered. We learned in January that this wasn't the case. We're mad because we know the students and families are the ones who are going to suffer the most. You encourage us to be culturally responsive, trauma-informed advocates for our families and students. So here we are, advocating for our families that can't be here, but care deeply about Yankee Ridge community. We have been told that this community is not a building, it's a group of people. We wholeheartedly agree. This is why our community is disheartened. More than anything, we want to see the success of the dual language program. And we are so proud that our district values bilingualism and has taken such major steps to protect and promote it. But we would like you to consider all of the costs and losses. If Yankee Ridge were chosen to be a dual language school, this decision will fracture a strong, diverse, and cohesive school family. Because we all know Urbana is better together. This decision will re-injure our most vulnerable students who will experience the trauma of having to move school settings, losing friendships, and feelings of safety and trust that have been painstakingly nurtured over the years. The weight of this decision, along with the already overwhelming responsibilities, expectations, and regular changes of the school environment, risk aggravating an already precarious situation. This decision not only affects the future of Yankee Ridge, but all Urbana schools. So moving forward, we are advocating for equity for our families and programs across our district. This decision has the potential for even greater segregation, more so than currently, and for additional trauma and inequitable access. The concept maps seem to select areas based on population density and not demographics. More specifically, this decision has already impacted staff, families, and students by creating a loss of families of safety and trust due to timing and rollout and the torment of students who have to now decide between friends and a beneficial multilingual program. A loss of staff who will leave for other opportunities, and losing families who want to be part of the community that has a clear plan. Our hearts are with our students, families, and colleagues. Our hopes are with our district, and that improvement will occur. We ask that in the future, decisions will improve the learning, social, and working environment for all students. We ask your considerations and fiscal plans be used towards proven and effective initiatives, including instructional resources, best teaching practices, retention and stability, that will actually improve our students' educational experience. Thank you again for your time and space to clarify our thoughts.
Thank you all for coming this evening. Next up is Julia Hockenmeyer.
Hi. Is this sorry, am I close enough? Cool. I'm here again to please ask you to reconsider the sixth grade center. I really don't think we have enough information. I don't think we know whether we can afford to build it. I think, so I've heard it's going to cost us all our bond money. It's going to mean we're not going to be able to do any construction in the district for the next 10 to 15 years. If that is the case, the taxpayers deserve to know. And it's going to cost us, I think, $4 million just in interest, if that's correct. Again, I think the taxpayers need to know, because that's a huge amount of money for a district of our size and our financial means. I also want to know whether we can afford to run the sixth grade center. And because I don't think we're really clear on the operational costs of running the sixth grade center, nor are we fully clear on the operational impacts of running a sixth grade center. Right? I don't think we fully understand the impact on our electives, on the music program, which we all love, right? That's really one of the crown jewels in this district, or on the DL program at UMS, right? If these teachers, you know, and again, there's a lot more people here in the room who actually understand this, right? But if the contract hours of the teachers mean that traveling between these schools to teach sixth grade as well as 7th, 8th grade means that they have fewer hours to spend with the students, I don't think it's worth it. I really think these are all costs that we have to consider very, very seriously. And I think now that we have all the data from RSP, the cost of asking for 1 or 2 more maps is going to be minimal relative to the $30 million or up to $30 million, or $29 million that we're probably going to spend on the sixth grade center, right? I really think, you know, even if you go back and say, okay, we have to do the sixth grade center, but I think if you now spend a few $1,000s to get more maps, and if you can then show to the community that, no, this really is the best decision in the face of all the data we have, because running Wiley as another elementary school doesn't actually improve things, then okay, then we have the data, and then we probably can all buy into that decision. But I think right now, the community doesn't trust you because we don't have the data. We just haven't been told, you know, we just haven't really sort of seen all the data all in one place. I really, you know, I was unaware of, you know, like the impact of turning Wiley into a sixth grade center, not just for the DL students in the elementary schools and all of the elementary students across the district, but also the DL students at the middle school, right? But that's going to have a huge impact on them too. And I really think using Wiley as a as a dual language elementary school would be a much better use of that space. If we can afford to actually build a sixth grade center, we should hopefully also be able to afford to build or to turn Wiley into another elementary school. And if we can't afford to make it big enough to hold the whole dual language program, perhaps you can hold kindergarten through second grade, right? Or perhaps it can hold some of the other elementary schools, right? And if we can't afford to actually spend $25 million on a single building, perhaps we should consider what we do with that land, right? I really think these are big questions, and I don't think we've really fully sort of thought everything through. So please ask RSB for more maps. Spend a few more weeks if you can. I know it's hard because it's the end of the year, but please try to spend a little bit of money. It's going to really buy you a lot of trust in the community. You will probably also, you know, you all know that there's been a community survey as well, right? And I really hope that you will spend the time to discuss that survey as well as the survey results from RSP. Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colin Rood.
All right, hi, thank you. Mark Twain is famously attributed as the originator of the phrase, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Whether the provenance is true, the phrase is impactful. We often find ourselves in situations that feel familiar, because they are so eerily similar to a past experience. And why do I bring this up? I've been watching videos of the past board meetings, and I have often been surprised, and simultaneously not so surprised, at how repetitive the comments have been. In May 2022, after the proposal to house dual language at Lille was released, many parents attended those board meetings. And what did they ask for? Transparency, communication, get feedback from all stakeholders, and devise a strategic plan. In early 2023, when Wiley was proposed to be closed, many parents attended those board meetings. What did they ask for? Transparency, communication, get feedback from all stakeholders, and devise a strategic plan. In fall of 2023, when the district proposed a 6th grade center, and later a yet to be determined but already admitted in private to be Yankee Ridge Elementary School, to house a central dual language school, many parents attended those board meetings. What did they ask for? You get the idea. And here I am now in March 2024, having come now to several board meetings, becoming another rhyme in history. Transparency, communication, get feedback from all stakeholders, and devise a strategic plan. I found at least 2 years of board meeting clips with people frustrated at changes being proposed, labeled as an emergency, begging to understand how the district-altering proposals fit into strategic priorities, what success would look like, what adjustments might need to be made. Before then, it was COVID. It was a real emergency. It's understandable that planning is hard under those circumstances. So at this point now, you've had 2 years to tell us what the plan was, and yet haven't. I hear now that you are finally taking steps on this, and that's commendable, but the plan is to wait until everything has been voted on before really pressing for a strategic plan. I can't tell you how backwards that logic is. The point of a strategic plan is to lay out end goals and the big changes that need to be made in order to achieve them. Writing a strategic plan after those big changes happen misses the entire point. I was at a leadership workshop yesterday, and I simultaneously laughed and cried when in the midst of our workshop on achieving priorities, we were shared a single page labeled Strategic Planning Model. I have 10 copies here in case you want one. I do want to read a few parts of that to you. Scan the environment. What forces or trends will influence your future? Analyze your stakeholders' needs. Determine the critical implications. What is going to shape our future? Develop the desired future state. What is our vision for where we want to be? Assess the current state. Identify our strengths, values, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats. Develop the strategic goals. What will move us to the desired state? What strategies will we use to achieve the progress needed? Outline implementation. Outline the action plan, milestones, and accountabilities. And notably, at the end, in italics, it is important in most organizations to engage and communicate with various constituencies during the different phases of the process. Let me be clear. This was a planning exercise for our organization's next 6 months. This is something we are being asked to do twice a year, as well as big picture 5-year planning. And this is organizational theory 101, and right now, we're failing. You press things forward saying, make decisions, don't second guess yourself. This is an emergency. We can't just do nothing. They need the changes now. That's not planning. And the fact that it has been the standard operating procedure for every change and proposal for the last 2 years is disheartening. You could have been planning the entire time. Had you engaged constituencies, run surveys, gathered feedback, considered options, we could be at a place right now where we all agree on the best way forward. Sure, you'll never make everyone happy, but that doesn't mean that you just forge ahead with whatever snap decision is in front of you. I'm really having trouble accepting this narrative you are trying to write. It's my children. It's our children. They're the ones who have to bear the impacts of this, and we're treating our schools and students like numbers on a spreadsheet that can just be copied and pasted into another table. And if the numbers look right, everything's fixed. It doesn't work that way. Get community input, everyone's input, make and agree on a plan, then make the changes. Start making the moves now to become the healthy district that you want to be. Don't just pull the Band-Aid off with bad decisions that affect hundreds of students, and only then finally start to take things seriously. Transparency, communication, feedback from all stakeholders, and a strategic plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. If you could hand those to Lori, she'll pass them around to the board.
What's that?
If you could pass those
Oh, yeah.
forward to Lori, she'll get it to the board. Thank you. Sam Vandergrift?
Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Vandergrift. I have 2 kids in the district. We just looked at colleges with my eldest, and we have someone who is a rising 6th grader. Education is really about possibilities. I think that's what we're hoping to achieve for everybody, is giving them more opportunities than they had and more possibilities in their life. And I have no doubt that everybody on the board and in central admin is working really hard to consider what the outcomes could be for children and come to them with the best intentions, right? I really want to acknowledge that. And I don't think there are easy decisions being made. The thing that I'm really concerned about in terms of the timeline on this is that you've created an arbitrary crisis to be able to force a decision on something before you have an idea of where it's going to go to. And the backward step in that, right, putting the caboose before the horse, so to speak, is going to lead to a lack of trust from the key stakeholders in the district who are going to be your allies that you need to be able to make other changes going forward. I see it really as a big waste of social capital, of political capital, and really I think it's disrespectful to the human capital of everybody in the district that's out there working every day to not come to this saying, this is why we are doing these things. And the why, I think, is really important in all of this. In the education, in my own education on this, having really great conversations with people, I had a really great talk with Paul a week ago. Right? It seems like there are really big issues in the district that need to be addressed that aren't being discussed widely enough that they're the kind of topics that come home in backpacks. That's a really big missed opportunity. That's several years of missed opportunities where you could have said, we're really looking at helping build an educational model that's more inclusive for more of the students in this district, and instead you're just doing it in a little what seems to be cabal, and those of us that are asking questions don't feel like we're able to get answers very easily. One of the things that concerns me in terms of the financial ramifications of this, right, is that we are going to spend our nest egg now. We are going to eat all the potatoes before we can put them in the ground. We are going to bake a cake with the last of the grain in the granary, right? This is a really dangerous thing, and I don't mean that in terms of just necessarily monetary resources we have now. But if you lose the stakeholders who have kids in this district for the next 13 years, right, or who have siblings who are going to be in the district for the next 20 years, and you need to have a bond passed, right? And so you're going to ask people to go and knock on doors. I don't see a lot of people in this room that are really willing to trust that the process is going to lead to where we want in the end because it's being done backwards, right? I'm not inclined to say that we should go raise $100 million for a new school right now unless we have a good reason for knowing why we need to do that. And I think there are lots of reasons to spend that kind of money in this district on our kids. I think that's really important, right? But until we know where we're headed, I don't think any of us is going to be very excited to participate in that. So I urge you all to stop and consider. You already have a strategic planning process on the calendar. We came to the meeting with the first person from the state, to sit down and talk about that, right? You already have that in place. And given the chaos and upheaval of the last several years, I don't think waiting one more year before you make redistricting changes and before you decide on what you're going to do with an overcrowded middle school is really going to matter in the long run, right? I see that there is urgency and I can understand the desire to want to do something, but I think we should sit down and consider what all the options are and make the correct decision instead of just making the first decision that comes to our mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Does anybody else wish to make a statement before the board tonight? All right. Thank you. Well, moving on, there is no call for an executive session after this meeting. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
There are no communications tonight, so let's move on to our student ambassador report.
Okay. Word of the day. Next, please. Thank you. The word of the day is mestizo, and this relates to a lot of the students here at the USD of 116 school district because it's just there's so many mestizos. Like everywhere I go, it's like I meet another one, and I'm like, wow. In modern times, this word is used to describe biracial people who are both Spanish and indigenous Latin American, often from Spanish and indigenous of Latin American or Hispanic origin. Normally used in ways to show ethnic pride or as a derogatory word by some. Most people here at UHS take pride in being a mestizo because they see the word as honoring their heritage, while others use that word at UHS to belittle people and make them feel less Latin American or not like too white. Nowadays, many mestizos are Mayan, Mexican, El Salvadoran, Guatemalan, Bolivian, Peruvian, and Ecuadorian. People often say they are mestizo to say they are like white, Spanish, or indigenous. Some people confuse it with like white Spanish and like Latin American, but it's indigenous. And then, a lot of people use like indigenous practices or Spanish traditional practices in their lives, but it really varies because I've met mestizos who like have a lot of indigenous roots and really incorporate that in their lives, and others who just don't really do that at all. And so I live among the mestizo community of USD 116, and I can say there are so many of us, so thank you for listening to me and taking your time to hear this for us. Oh, next, please. Okay, the success at UHS. Yesterday's soccer game, with a final score of 7-1, the UHS girls soccer team defeated Arthur Christian School yesterday evening. Way to go, Tigers. There's new art in Urbana. We have a mural that was revealed. I think it was like yesterday or something. Before spring break? Okay, I wasn't sure. Because I know it's like pretty recent. But and this is an effort between the Teen Art Council, Teens in Action, Dream Girls Academy, Urbana Freedom Schools, the Teen Open Lab at the Urbana Free Library, and the UHS Art Club. This was made possible by the Urbana Arts and Cultural Grant, so we are very grateful for this. Student activities. The UHS theater production is coming up at the beginning of May, May 2nd through 4th at 7 p.m., and then May 5th at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Okay. Kala's is an original musical written by the director at UHS. So she like wrote her own musical with an alumni of UHS, and it's about this girl who's like on her way to finding her identity, and it's like very fantasy with like these magical creatures in like this whole new world. It's like pretty cool. So I'd like definitely check it out in May. And then the UHS band alumni reunion. The band is getting back together. Join us in the UHS band's 100th anniversary celebration on the weekend from April 19th to 20th. And then like basically there's going to be like probably Dr. Manfredo and Dr. Peters. So, you know, maybe you should probably check that out. Anyways. And then Student Council is working on creating Harmony Week. If you would like to help lead a workshop, session, lesson, or lecture to help bring harmony, experience, knowledge, and fun to UHS, you can either email me or Ms. Alvarez at yalvarez@usd116.org. And it's basically so students can put their differences aside and come together to like gain lots of knowledge and tips and information from people who are more experienced than them in certain parts, and just like work on friendship, peace, and teamwork. And harmony work is not fully guaranteed until we get enough workers, so that's why I'm like asking if you know anyone who could help us to please reach out to me or Miss Alvarez. Thank you. Key Club is holding elections for leadership positions for next year, so that's pretty exciting. The dates are every other Tuesday from 3:30 to 4 p.m. At UHS in room 2216. And then Key Club is a national volunteering club where people do service projects. They've done service projects with the Humane Society with like dog toys, and then first responders and military veterans, they like wrote them letters and stuff like that. So they just do a lot of like volunteering in the community. We're gonna do like holding this like breakfast for the community, like this free breakfast. We're working on that, and then a garden day volunteering, and then there's like a bunch of other projects we're trying to like get people to sign up for. And then there's another one that we're gonna do on Saturday. So it's like a lot of service in the community. Student feedback. So I was like, a lot of people have been talking about this, and I got an email from someone being like, hey, please bring this up to the board. And I was like, okay. So I'm aware there's like a huge staff shortage in the districts, which is gravely affecting the students all over the district. And I understand that you are doing what you can to rectify this issue. But is there more that you can do? we would appreciate it if you could please deeply think of this and try to come up with some solutions, because students at UHS are suffering a lot. I've seen firsthand how this can impact students with long-term subs that are not experienced in the subject or unfamiliar with teaching. Ms. Soto is an English teacher at UHS who has been absent due to unforeseen circumstances. Therefore, she was given substitute teachers for her classes, but this like hasn't been going well for students at all. It's like extremely chaotic. It's like awful. Like all the students were like coming to like student leaders, and then like I got emails and I was like, oh my goodness. But basically like there's delays in grading and like unupdated scores, and students are unsure of their actual grade, and they're like the grading is just like completely off. But this is not on Ms. Soto at all. She's not responsible for this. This is more just like brought up to mention how confusing things have been with the substitutes. And then the importance of this is, as Michael Turner stated, as timely feedback on assignments and grade book recency is crucial for our academic success, I believe it's important to address this promptly to uphold fairness and transparency in our evaluations. Michael Turner, former USD 116 student ambassador, March 18th, 2024. And then academics. The SAT and the PSAT the PSAT will be on April 2nd, 2024 for freshmen and sophomores. And then the juniors and seniors will have like an online learning day. And then April 3rd will be juniors will take the SAT, and then freshmen, sophomores, and seniors will have e-learning days. And then the test will be online, so students will do it on their Chromebooks. I have one concern. Often when we get e-learning days, no one does the assignments or the work, so I was just like wondering if there's a way we could like change that to where we're like still doing our work and still like having school, but like people are actually doing the work. So like one thing that like really helped when I was in middle school and we had COVID and the teachers weren't able to like be in the room with us, so that they made sure that we did the work. They like had Zoom classes, and like there were Zoom lessons, and so like they would just teach us on Zoom, and everyone would come on. There'd be like 20, 15, 25 people there, and everyone would like interact because we would use like joinpd.com, and everyone would like, so that way they could like interact with the teachers. But like we don't have that anymore. It's kind of just like do this assignment, or like some teachers don't even assign assignments, and it's kind of just like, and then sometimes the e-learning days are like labeled as e-learning days, so no one does the assignment. And yeah, so I was just wondering if like that could be a possibility, because that really worked when I was in 8th grade, and that's like how like most people like passed middle school and were able to graduate because our 8th grade year was online. So yeah. Acceleration. If you know a student who wants to accelerate to a more challenging course or advanced level of academics, they will need to complete the referral for acceleration placement program. These are due March 27th, 2024 on Wednesday. College representative visits. There was one on Monday. Ooh, no, that was today. At 1 p.m. And then there's Western Illinois University tomorrow at 9 a.m. And then Parkland College tomorrow at 12 p.m. And then Quincy University visit was the 12th at 12 p.m. And then UHS fundraisers, there's like a few band and choir fundraisers coming up. There's a choir fundraiser for pizza. Basically, you can just go to Monocle's and like show that like the flyer, the choir flyer on your phone or on your computer, or like bring like a copy of the flyer and be like, hey, can you donate some of my money that I give you to choir? And they'll donate like 20% of their proceeds. So that would be cool if you could get some Monocle's pizza. Yeah, tonight. Yeah. UHS band fundraiser. Put in orders right away. Take the night off on April 4th and enjoy a meatless lasagna or dinner at Nelson's Chicken. Orders must be placed by March 27th at noon. And the band appreciates your support and help. And then the website you visit is like below. And then the choir is having like, I guess it's almost like annual at this point. They're having like a talent show. And it's pretty cool. There's like a bunch of different acts, and there's so many different acts. It's not just like all performing arts. There's like last time there was like a lot of circus stuff, and there's like poetry. It was like really cool. There was like a bunch of people were involved in the acts, and it was like I'd say an hour and a half, 45 minutes, something like that. And the tickets are $5, and they're sold in the UHS cafeteria during all lunch periods. And it's Friday, March 22nd at 7 p.m. These are just some upcoming sports and activities. March 18th, there's a girls' soccer game and a JV basketball game. And then March 19th, there's a softball game. And then March 20th, there is a basketball game. And then March 20th is also a softball game and a girls' varsity soccer game. And then a JV basketball game, March 21st. And then March 22nd, there's a girls' soccer game at Uni. And March 23rd, there's a varsity baseball at UHS versus Mahomet at 11 a.m. And then other UHS extracurricular activities. Color Guard tryouts are coming out April 8th to 11th from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the UHS small gym. And then Korean Culture Club meets in room 1158, and it meets every Thursday after school, at least this week. And then Garden Work Day is like a time where a bunch of people come together and work on the UHS garden. It's like a thing for like the Agriculture Club at UHS, and it's from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Pauline. You guys do a great job on this stuff every single time.
Thank you. Don't leave me anything to talk about. No.
Still.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
There was a student group that sold strawberries, and they were delivered at the beginning of March. Do you know what group that was for? At what? Okay. They were the best strawberries ever. If they get a chance to do it again, buy it. It was wonderful.
The e-learning days? What are the e-learning days? No, why?
Why do we have
Uh-huh.
So the state has allowed the district, instead of having a snow day, we can have an electronic learning day, in lieu of a snow day, and that allows us to not have to extend the academic calendar another day.
But what Paulina's talking about is SAT day. The only reason there's some students that come to school and everybody's testing. The students that are not testing are doing e-learning. So that it doesn't impact the rest of the district. That is just a high school thing.
Yeah.
Because all the teachers have to proctor. And so because everyone's proctoring, we aren't able to run a regular schedule. Yes. So the students who aren't testing are doing e-learning.
Yeah. We also have e-learning in case it's like too hot or there's like an extreme weather condition that we can't leave our house. Yeah, because there was like a heat day where it's too hot. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Thanks again. Moving on, our administrative report tonight is mentoring and community involvement report.
And while Angie's
Thank you,
coming,
Angie.
just to give the board a little background. So if you remember, Angie was invited to come in January during National Mentoring Month, but she was becoming a new grandma for the first time the night that she was supposed to be here. And I know she's not going by grandma. I forgot what your name is. Mimi. She's becoming a new Mimi. And so then she was going to come in February, and then we had a conflict. So we're really excited to have her come and talk to us about mentors and volunteers.
Thank you for having me. So this report is according to the data from first semester from my staff, and I've included some updates, but most of it will be according to the first semester from our semester reports from August to December of 2023. Typically, each year our volunteer sector has grown, but unfortunately during the pandemic, our volunteer hours and mentoring meetings declined. I'm proud to announce that the last 2 years of can you guys hear me well? That the mentor and community involvement coordinators have been hard at work recruiting new mentors, supporting, encouraging, and retaining current mentors, placing U of I and Parkland observers and tutors, along with placing parent community volunteers with their schools. Go to this slide right here. The first slide I'm sharing with you has all of CU 1-to-1's National Mentor Month activities and recruiting initiatives. One particular feature we did differently this year was include CU 1-to-1 mentor's name in the News Gazette, thanking every mentor for being a part of the program. This included over 500 names, and I actually have a copy of it. It was super exciting to see this in the News Gazette, and the mentors really did appreciate having their names posted. We just said thank you to them. Let's see, another fun quality we added was having Champaign-Urbana superintendents do an interview with CI Living while attending our annual mentor breakfast event. So thank you, Dr. Ivory Tatum, for doing that. I visited Stevie J Radio along with WEF for promoting mentoring along with social media posts and having a billboard posted on Cunningham Avenue. I don't know if any of you saw it, but it was there, and it was actually facing Urbana, right across from Cunningham Children's Home. All of these initiatives assisted with increasing awareness of the mentoring program and the need for mentors in our schools. The second slide indicates the requirements needed in order to become a mentor within the CU 1-to-1 mentoring program, along with the final 3 new mentor trainings we hosted for second semester, giving us a total of 6 per year. The other 3 were held in September and 1 in September and 2 in October. Okay, here you're looking at Dr. Preston Williams Jr. data for first semester. Renee Stein, who was recently hired as of February, is the coordinator at Dr. Williams and Urbana Early Childhood. She's the mentor and community involvement coordinator for Dr. Williams. She's only the community involvement coordinator for Urbana Early Childhood. She works 15 hours a week. The number of mentors has increased tremendously, with 8 additional pairs being matched first semester, giving a total of 15 CU 1-to-1 mentors. Dr. Williams and Thomas Paine Elementary are the only 2 schools that host the Illini Mentor Program after school. The IMP mentor count has vastly increased since last year, with an additional 21 mentors being matched with students. This is the one and only after-school program that my staff essentially take care of. The volunteer hours at Dr. Williams has increased greatly, as well as an additional 16 volunteers, creating a surplus of 1,144 hours for Dr. Williams. Next is King Elementary. Tim Tufty began working as the coordinator at King in October of 23. He works 10 hours a week. As of December, there were 9 mentors, and he currently has 11 active pairs. This number has increased from last year by 6 in December and now 8. King's volunteers increased by 2 since last year, with a total number of hours climbing to 422. This is an indication that the volunteer time spent has escalated tremendously. Now you're looking at Leal Elementary. Annie Allegretti has been with Leal since August and works 15 hours a week. Her mentor upturn went from 6 to 9 by December and has improved with an additional 3, giving a current total of 12 mentor pairs. The volunteer numbers elevated by 17 additional individuals, rocketing the hours spent to 1,476 again as of December. So these increases are very impressive. The next slide is Thomas Paine Elementary Summer Report for first semester. The coordinator working at this school is Nakaya Farrell. She began in August and works 10 hours a week. She had a total of 7 active mentors. She has added 1 new mentor since her December report, increasing her number of mentors by 1 or 2 since for now. The number of IMP volunteers, so Thomas Paine is the other school that has the Illini Mentor Program after school, has maintained since last school year with 16. Her volunteers grew by 5, improving the hours to 45 since last year. Yankee Ridge is our final elementary school with an amplified number of mentors of 8 in December and adding a couple more within the last month, bringing the total active pairs to 21. This is Amy Bader's second year as coordinator, working 10 hours a week. Her volunteer count inflated with 24 additional people, making her hours rise by 1,475. Next is Urbana Middle School. I'm currently the coordinator at this school as well as the district coordinator, working 40 hours a week. I do have a middle school coordinator position posted for 20 hours a week to relieve me from the duties. My assistant is now the school secretary at Urbana Middle School. I've assumed her duties and now I'm posting for a middle school coordinator position at 20 hours a week. I'm still waiting for people to apply for that position. The mentors have decreased at UMS since last year by 8 pairs. Volunteer numbers have prospered with 45 added volunteers, giving a surplus of 1,146 hours. I also want to share with you that I just began a peer mentor program with Eve Foley. And we have 16 Urbana High School students coming over every Wednesday during their last hour, our 8th hour, and tutoring Urbana Middle School students. And this is going really well. They're walking over, they're doing their tutoring, and then leaving the building. So that's exciting. Uh-oh, what's going on here? You locked me up. Okay. Lastly is Urbana High School. John Heffler started in November, working 30 hours a week. The number of mentors increased by 13 and since has added 2 more. CU 1-to-1 will have 16 graduates this year that will be offered a $14,000 scholarship from the CU 1-to-1 Scholarship Foundation Board. So they will be presented that at our banquet this year at the end of in May. Urbana's high school volunteer numbers have ascended by 19, given an additional surge in hours by 1,947. This slide right here, the volunteer slide, shares the protocol of becoming a volunteer, tutor, observer, along with collaborating through external organizations within our district. Each school has a community involvement coordinator placed to ensure the safety of our schools. Every non-school district person assuming volunteerism must be cleared through our background clearance service, BUSHU, and attend a 10-minute orientation with the coordinator before they begin. Finally, the last slide has my goals. Here we go. Finally, the last slide has my goals for CU 1-to-1 mentoring community involvement for Urbana School District. I would like to see 10 plus CU 1-to-1 mentor pairs at every elementary school. This will increase with awareness and continued support from Urbana School District along with recruitment initiatives. Secondly, in my professional opinion, it is imperative that we increase all of the elementary coordinator positions to 15 hours a week. These positions were created in 30 years ago, and nothing has changed since then. This will allow them to be able to be present in their buildings 5 extra hours. These extra hours will give them the opportunity to confirm clearances, produce additional orientations, conduct visitor management, and bring in other volunteer organizations, which in turn give Urbana schools a higher rate of community involvement. It also allows the coordinators to make the appropriate connections between the needs of their school and the rich resources of our community, and more importantly, creating a welcoming and safe school environment. Thirdly, the hiring of a UMS coordinator is in the works, so I've already explained that. And lastly, we will be kicking off our 30 years of celebration with CU one-to-one mentoring program at the end of this year's banquets. We are having t-shirts printed up. The foundation board will be printing up t-shirts, and then they'll be doing other fun promo activities, and I'm not sure exactly what all those are yet. I've been to a couple of meetings. I think they're going to do some happy hours, just bring awareness to the program. 30 years is a long time for a thriving program like this. Lastly, I just want to let you know I appreciate all the efforts that you give to Urbana schools and the support that you give me with CU one-to-one and as a community involvement coordinator.
That's awesome.
Any
Board,
questions?
yeah, board student ambassadors. Any questions?
Question, Angie, about
Okay.
some of your data where you have observers. Could you explain who they are and what they're doing in the classroom and how you count their hours?
Yeah. So at one point, we did not count observers in with our volunteer program. And I believe Mr. Halley and Dr. Ivory Tatum had a talk about that because we do still meet with them. We make sure that every observer is cleared. They have a background clearance. Some observers are already placed. Some observers already have their placement solidified with the teacher in the district. Some do not, so we have to go about and ask for a teacher to take them. And then they have to have an orientation, and we make them a name badge. We give them a sign-in. So there's a protocol in order to even come into the building. If you come into the building, you have to sign in as a visitor. You have to, and then we'll sign in for your hours in a binder, give you a name badge. When a person has a name badge, that's an indication to the staff member that that volunteer or that observer or that tutor is cleared and they can begin.
And an observer is like a university student, or?
Typically, yes.
What a
Some of
great-
them are Parkland,
Okay, yeah.
but most of
so-
them are U of I students.
Uh-huh.
And they're, we tell them, typically they are students that have, it's their last semester of observing. Their next semester will be student teaching.
What a great way to get them into our schools. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Anyone else?
Hi.
Hi.
Have you heard of the executive internship program at UHS?
I have heard of it.
Were you able to do any work with the interns there yet? Because I know a lot of people who would like to go into teaching or work with children. Have you been able to reach out to the internship program, or would that be something you're interested in?
It would be something that I think we need to have a meeting about
Yeah.
and discuss the logistics of it before we just say yes.
Yeah, before you say yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Would you like the contact information of the
Mhm.
person who? Okay, is there a way I can get like your email or something? Okay,
Yeah, I'll
cool.
get it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people at UHS want hands-on time with children, and they do get to do that with like Tiny Tigers, but they
Right.
definitely want more experience. Yeah.
I would love to see high school students coming into our elementary schools
Yeah.
and working with our students.
Yes, definitely. I think they would benefit from that. Both sides would. Yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I've got a couple.
Okay.
So well, first I want to thank you for all this work, bringing all these adults into our building and helping out. They're a huge help in all across the district. Is it a struggle, I guess, bringing in people though who is there especially, I guess, a need for people who are bilingual or multilingual to have them help out in our dual language classrooms? And I guess what efforts can we help you with to recruit folks who can assist in those rooms?
Yeah, first of all, I don't have any bilingual staff members, so I think that is a hindrance. However, with some of the staff members working in schools that are bilingual or multilingual, some of the other staff members have helped them create flyers for recruiting. We do go about in the community and do recruiting. So the more flyers we have that are in Spanish or French, the better off we are getting those volunteers. And we go to the U of I. Actually, Kelly Allen just invited me to do the kindergarten registration, which I believe is in April. And I said, yes, we'll do a table. So hopefully we can give some information for volunteering at that event. But yeah, the more help I can get getting that news out for those people that want to volunteer in our multilingual classrooms, the better.
I guess the other one statement is really more of a comment. I think the board should seriously consider, I guess, increasing the hours of our coordinators, not just because it's been so long since we looked at it, but we have fewer, larger buildings now with more classrooms and and more coordinator and more volunteers to bring in. So I mean, I think that's something that we should talk about and consider doing. That's just a personal opinion.
I agree. I do have 2 staff members currently at 15 hours, and that's one at Leal because they typically have had the most volunteer ratio than any other school. And then my new coordinator at Dr. Williams, because we added her to Urbana Early Childhood, we gave her those extra 5 hours. So she's 15 hours, and so is the Leal. But I have 3 other coordinators that are only 10 hours a week. Essentially, they work 2 days at 5 hours. And if I could even have them at 3 days for 5 hours, it would improve.
Yeah, thank you. And anybody else? Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Our second report tonight is our redistricting survey results update. So RSP is joining us, I guess, by Zoom.
Yes, good evening, board. Can you guys hear me okay?
It's a little soft.
I can see if I can turn up. All right, can you guys hear me better?
That's much better.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Jenna Wallace. I'm with RSP, so I'm going to pretty briefly just give you guys an update as far as our boundary process after our events for public input. So we had 2 nights of in-person, and then we had a survey that was going out for about 2.5 weeks from that first public input night. And so we have the results from that survey that we're trying to kind of wrap up all together and give you guys an update. This slide's just a little bit about RSP. So you guys are pretty familiar with us now, and we'll be working alongside you guys for the remainder of this process. So you can go ahead to the next slide. This process here, so this visual goes through where we're at with our boundary analysis. So finished up our public input, and we're now here to more so to the end of the process. Something that we'll kind of talk about a little bit when we get to those survey results is this process is getting expanded a little bit as we are planning on an additional opportunity for public input. So that's not reflective in this visual, but it is working between us and district administration to plan another opportunity for some public input.
We're losing you. We're losing your voice again.
All right, so sorry about that. Just this process here, so we will be having another opportunity for public input. That's perfect. This visual here goes into our boundary objectives. So this was what was set in the beginning of the process, going through the different items, setting the stage for this boundary process. We wanted to provide this as more just context for those that are maybe coming into this process and seeing what are the objectives going into this redistricting effort. So some different items of where we do have capacity challenges. So DPW, Leal, Thomas Paine, those different overcapacity challenges with our boundaries, as well as the establishing of a dual language school and some other board input leading into this boundary analysis. You can go ahead to the next slide. Perfect. This visual here goes through one of our first meetings with you as the board, where we went through some different activities to provide some guidance to this process, where we were talking about the difference between a neighborhood proximity lens to a boundary and the lens of balancing socioeconomics between the schools. So more just some overall setting the stage and guidance leading to this process, where we do have that neighborhood proximity lens being of a higher priority into our boundary concepts, into that boundary work that we created for public input. This visual here goes into a kind of a wraparound concept that goes throughout an entire boundary process, which is an RSB term we call ACE. So it is the wraparound item where we always are taking into consideration the academics, the culture, and the economics of the district. So knowing that these three pillars work behind the scenes in all of our concepts and all of our public input, knowing that we're always keeping in mind our academics with our buildings, the culture of our facilities, and the economics of the district. And then lastly, just as the kind of the last process item slide here before I get into the public input results, is our boundary criteria. So this is utilized to analyze our different boundary concepts and to understand that there are different lenses to look at a boundary plan and remark if one's better than the other, if one's maybe one item may be a better in concept 2 versus concept 1. And that's what these different items outline. So looking at our different boundary concepts and in the work that we're putting together based on public input, we always want to bring it back to our criteria, where we will look at contiguous attendance areas, demographics, duration of a boundary, the fiscal considerations, the neighborhood feel of the boundary, projected enrollment, students impacted, and transportation. So all these criteria are very important, and all of them play a role into the evolution of our boundary concepts. All right, so next here, I'm just kind of briefly give you guys an update on our public input results. Some disclaimers here. So we'll talk through some input that we received from the in-person events as well as the survey. We did have 263 respondents to our survey. So a more smaller sample size, but still valid with all that input and feedback from the community. You can go ahead to the next slide. All right, so from our in-person events, we had 2 events. One was February 29th and 28th. And then the survey opened that first night on the 28th and closed March 15th. So these in-person events was more of the qualitative data from the public input, while the survey is working to capture that quantitative side. So some of these themes that were kind of pulled out from the different conversations and input from our in-person events are listed here. So confirmation of the projections, the discussion of the use of Wiley as potential dual language or regular elementary. So we'll talk about some of those items where we had that feedback from public input. And then some different comments about the proximity and the program location of the different concepts, and maybe some input of versus concept 1, concept 2 of the proximity of our different neighborhoods to their schools, as well as some program relocation potential. So those were just some overall themes of some feedback we heard from those in-person events. So getting into the survey, because this has more of that data metrics that I'm able to speak to. Like I said, we had 263 total respondents to our survey. You can see that traffic over time where there was the large spike in the beginning of the survey opening, and then it kind of was a pretty slow trickle in, and then a spike at the end of the survey, which is pretty typical with what we see. We did have the majority of our responses as parents, and so a lot of these visuals here go into the demographics of our survey respondents. You can see here 60% indicated they were parents, and then 17% indicated they had a student in the dual language program. We had 47% indicate that they were white and our different demographics there. And then we also asked them for their survey participants if they identify with an elementary school, which one. And so you can see that visual there where Yankee Ridge, Thomas Paine, and Leal had the most respondents for their survey. And then one other thing I want to kind of speak to this slide, and you'll see this throughout the different visuals, is the gray coloring where it says blank. And so that's indicating the number of respondents that didn't answer that question in the survey. And this is something that we do allow with our survey. We found with past experience and just sort of best planning practices where having your questions as optional actually boosts the number of total responses to the survey. So we may have some blanks that differentiate between questions, but overall does increase the number of total responses to your questions. So you'll see on all the different visuals the number of blank responses just illustrated there to ensure that we are accurate with our data visualizations and we get to that 263 total responses. So next visual here, more of our high level approach to the question where we asked just which concept do you support most? We did have concept 1 with slightly more support than concept 2. You can see 104 votes of support for concept 1 and 94 votes of support for concept 2, where we had 66 votes that did not provide support between the two concepts. So maybe something where they provided comments and they weren't particularly supportive of either concept, so they didn't answer this question. The next item that we had in the survey was this question of identifying the strengths and benefits of the proposed concepts. So in this question, we asked respondents to select from a list of items where they think the strengths and benefits are of concept 1 and then of concept 2. So comparing the two results of either question is visualized in this graphic where concept 1 had more votes of strengths and benefits for the dual language program location, and it had more in the other category, which is where we illustrated for them to leave a comment. So kind of a catch-all for other strengths and benefits. So when analyzing that data, concept 1 had more support for where the program was located, as well as some different comments from the public. For concept 2, you can see in the blue bars there where more people selected these strengths and benefits for addressing capacity concerns, improving neighborhood connectivity, manageable student impact, and setting a good direction for a future. And some of those are pretty even, especially that sets a good direction for a future, just one vote different between the two. But concept 2 did provide more votes in those different categories for strengths and benefits. The next question we asked in our survey was, out of this list of different items, which concerns do you have for either concept? So this wasn't differentiated between concept 1 or concept 2 that was proposed at public input, but kind of in general. So some of these main takeaways that were extracted was the respondents indicated that the overall concerns were with the disruption to students as the highest concern between concepts, and then proximity, safety, travel time aspect, as well as neighborhood connectivity. So those were the top 3 concerns extracted from either concept. And then one of the last things here that I have for the survey went into the survey comments. So like I kind of illustrated in those past two graphics, we did say if you had an other, leave a comment. If you have an other strength or benefit or an other concern, we provided the opportunity to leave a comment on the survey, as well as having some other areas throughout the survey where they were able to write in their comments. So overall, we had 275 comments received. And so that kind of bottom note kind of goes into the statistics of this. Of the 263 respondents of the total survey submitted, 127 provided comments. So around 50% of those that took the survey provided a comment. But then there was the total of 275 comments, as in some people provided multiple comments on the different questions. And so all of that was taken together and summarized in these themes. So these different main takeaways were many comments about the disruption and displacement of our current students, with some concerns for the academic performance and the teacher morale between the two plans, as well as some concerns and criticism for the neighborhood school and the program location between the two concepts. And then equity and socioeconomic distribution, some different concepts or some different comments about some concerns with the socioeconomic balance between our schools, travel time and transportation, some overall concerns with the different concepts of how it relates to busing on the north side of the district, as well as just proximity to different neighborhoods, living close to a school. And then one of the other main themes that was pulled out was a just request for more public input for an additional opportunity to analyze future revisions. And so just a request for additional community input. Those were the main takeaways from those different comments. Some of our main takeaways are summarized here. So relatively, the sample size for the survey was pretty small to make a statistically definitive statement, but input all as well. So we did see concept 1 slightly more favored than concept 2. From those multiple comments, as well as the in-person events, there were some requests to investigate a revision on concept 1 boundary to analyze the north boundary of Thomas Paine. In those large public input maps, this area was labeled Area P. So that is something our team is coming back and analyzing to create a solution that hopefully establishes that Area P to Thomas Paine. And then the request to have an additional opportunity for public input. So I kind of mentioned that in the beginning, and that is still in the works to be finalized and planned to have an additional opportunity for public and stakeholder involvement. And then continuing to analyze the benefits and challenges of our dual language program location. So utilizing the comments from the public as well as the different data metrics to hopefully narrow down the benefits and challenges of where that program is best served in the district. The last thing that I'll just kind of comment here, you'll definitely be able to pull this out from our different comments from the survey, as well as those in-person events, is many requests for the different items work against the current board action. So that's why I also spent some time walking through the different boundary principles and boundary criteria and board guidance that has been established, where we do have some of these board action items that would require different action on your guys' end to change those things. So the use of Wiley School in 25-26, the dual language program and location potential between Thomas Paine and Yankee Ridge, as well as the prioritization of neighborhood schools over your socioeconomic. So those different items have already had board action. So many comments in the survey and in those in-person events are requests to change those items. And so we just wanted to kind of call that out and just provide that context that it would take some different board action to move those metrics different for this boundary analysis. So I'll pause there. Dr. Ivory Tatum, did you have anything you wanted to add here?
So, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to remind the board, I think Jenna did a great job of kind of pointing out those last 4 bullets there. I know our last couple of meetings, I've heard from several staff members specifically kind of wondering what next steps are, especially our dual language population who are, you know, just worried and would like some reaffirmation around is the board going to consider or reconsider any of these actions, which Jenna has already kind of talked about. I do want to remind, I think our public has talked about it a lot. We've talked about it here. The decisions that have been made and the conversations around dual language for the last couple of years. Yes, we most recently have been talking about where dual language would be located and how those decisions have kind of all intermingled with each other in the last year. Have been things that we've been talking about. I think the main bullet that isn't represented here is one of the, I would say, one of the most important reasons why we're redistricting is to address the DPW overflow issues. That as a board, we have kind of self-imposed upon the district because of our lack or willingness to redistrict in the last several years. We have disenfranchised the whole neighborhood for multiple years, and we're seeing the impacts and effects of that not only on the neighborhood but on the students that we have been basically shuffling all over the district for the last 7 years. So I know that bullet isn't represented here, but I just want to keep that in the forefront as one of our really important reasons and rationale for redistricting in the first place too.
So would now be the opportunity for questions. Board members, any questions for our ambassador? Any questions for our representative from RSP?
Hi, I have a question. So I was wondering about the demographics. So there were a lot of races, but there were like some races that were left out, like Native Americans, Middle Eastern people, or people from Pacific Islander descent. I was wondering, like, would you be able to consider those people next time, or at least like, I know that Native Americans and Pacific Islanders aren't really a major race, and that's probably why they were not included. But I know there are a lot of Middle Easterns and Arabs in the district, and therefore I think that it would be crucial to at least implement them next time, even if it doesn't seem like there's a lot. I go all over the school, and there's so many, and they tend to not identify as white or black or African American.
For sure, and that was an option on the survey. It was just didn't receive any of, it didn't have a percentage or any results, so it's not captured in the graphic.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of the racial demographics to select when choosing this question and answering that question.
Okay, but they don't put like, they don't let you know, like on a side note that they were 0. You just assume that from like, if there's no statistic, then there was no answers.
They could be captured in one of like the blank choose no answer. This is just those survey results of I didn't have any respondents select that racial category when asked to describe your race.
So do they have Pacific Islander and Native American?
It was in one of the, on the survey, that was one of the options to select.
Okay,
yes.
That's good. Okay, thank you.
And I will say, I can't speak for the RSP survey, but for district surveys, if we have smaller than a certain number, we are not prohibited to like include them because it's identifiable. So if there was like one Pacific Islander, then people would know, oh, that person filled out the survey this way. So we have to kind of aggregate that in with other things.
Or you could like merge it into another category. Yeah, like people often put Asian and Pacific Islander together. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sherry?
I have a question, but there is something that I found very interesting is that there are so many families that are going to be impacted by Dr. Preston Williams' school if when the dual language program is in one building, and I was surprised that there was such a low turnout as far as responses, and if there's any way that we could, and not open it up, but try to get more responses, because it's really important to know what they prefer as well.
Has the time and place of the last public input been chosen?
Yeah, we were going to have it next Tuesday at Urbana High School again.
Could we do it at DPW gym instead?
We have a community cafe that night that is supposed to be at the DPW gym. So, yeah. Yeah.
Is there any way to have it at early childhood then?
I don't know that there is a space large enough at early childhood where we could have a full presentation. Yeah. I don't want to speak for that group, but I do know that is a hard group sometimes for us to get information from when we do. Surveys are just not, we talked about this with Jenna today when she shared the information with John and I. It's just really hard to capture these really intense topics and things like that through surveys. So.
I'm sorry.
go
That was
ahead.
kind of my questions was like, we only have 263 response among the whole district. So it's not really a lot impact in there. And I know there is a lot of communities that it's intimidating for them to respond because I'm not so sure that was in English, on Spanish, on French, that we have those opportunities, that survey. That's my question. Do we have?
It was in all three languages,
That was in
yes.
three language.
Mhm.
So seeing the small amount of people who respond, and as a controversial as it is the topic, I wonder if we can either extend a little bit more or do a different kind of survey. Maybe calls, maybe teacher conference. I don't know what other methods the district can employ to get more public impact, because with that, we really don't know what people is thinking.
Mhm.
And because of the movements, it's going to affect a lot of students. So we should be really sure that we could touch base with every community.
Sure. So, I know Jenna's on here. I'm assuming you guys could open it back up again, Jenna?
Yeah, we could.
Okay. Yeah, we shared it. I didn't count how many times, but so many times. I mean, I shared it in our updates. It was in board updates. It was on the website. We asked every single principal to put it in their newsletters. I saw several principals who added the links to their communication that they were sending out. So, yeah, we can try again. I don't know what else to do other than having, going school to school and having in-person meetings. It is the middle of March, and, Angie and I have heard from staff, and we have had, you guys have received some emails, too, that people need to know what is going to be happening, and so the longer we delay these topics, the harder it's going to be for us to be able to let staff members know where they're going to be, families know where they're going to be. It really pushes our timeline back further, but I am more than happy to open it up for another week or something like that, or 2 weeks, or whatever the board would like us to do. But again, the longer it takes us to make decisions on this end, the further we push back decisions for our families and our staff members.
Yeah, but opening is not going to resolve the problem because people is not getting it. I heard members of the community saying like, oh yes, I received something, but I don't know what he said. I'm just scared to open the link because I don't know what he said. I don't understand. So maybe if we have other venues like, I don't know, social media,
We put it on social
newspaper,
media.
TV, radio, where people can get it verbally, and then explain what is it and why is it. Maybe design some special information to put in the backpacks, like, this is important for your community, please answer.
Once they knew what it was, like once you talked to them, did that make them then say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go in and fill that out"?
That person I talked to was, she said, I receive all the time things. I don't know what it said because they have these blue things that I have to put, and I don't understand because I don't understand.
I'm just wondering if it would have
Made a
I can
difference.
tell you
I
for a
don't know.
lot of the African American communities, surveys in a lot of cases are not a high priority. And I'm not saying that we couldn't potentially get more people, and I'm definitely not against opening it for another week. I wouldn't want to fully delay the process by saying, oh, we're going to open this another month or something like
No.
that. But I just wondered if you thought opening it up, like if you were making some individual contacts, if you think they will say, oh yeah, I'm going to take the time and fill that out, or if they'd say, well,
But if
I've
we
got
are,
more important things going
Well,
on than
I think we
the
are
survey.
creative, and then we target populations like
Right, right.
but you know better your community,
Right, right.
so you know what is work for them. Maybe a newspaper, maybe I don't know, something in the backpack. I don't know.
Well,
But for my community, I know language and literacy is really low, and even if it's in Spanish, we have communities in Canjobal that they don't read any documents. So that's intimidating, and we are trying to target and we are trying to get impact for them. We should be creative and we should create things for them and their needs, no use for us.
Which you did, right? So it was in, you had it in the language,
We
or-
had it in all the languages. We had it on social media. I think Lucia put it in her Facebook group. We send it as a text for people who opt in for texting. Not everyone opts in to be to receive texts. It was sent through multiple emails. We did not do a paper like sending anything like to put in backpacks. That wasn't something that we did.
Oh.
I mean, that might
Could,
be
I mean,
something
could we
could
do that in
do.
conjunction with when are
Having conferences.
well
maybe
when are parent teacher conferences scheduled? I forget.
the 28th and 29th.
So I mean, could we reopen it just for that week through parent teacher
Yeah, and put
conferences?
some Chromebooks out.
And I mean, I most of the time you get there early and you're waiting anyway for your slot. So we could basically really encourage the folks who are attending parent teacher conferences to fill out the survey if they haven't already.
But I think Sitlali makes a really good point. If you've not been following this, which I guarantee you, they're very, as you can see, there are large populations that have not been following these conversations. And so if we just say, hey, sit down and take this survey at a parent teacher conference, if they've not been following along and know what the questions are asking them. And I know that was a big confusion back when we started the dual language communications. Like you've said, there were a lot of our families who didn't understand what we were asking them. And so when we were talking to them about dual language 2 years ago, they thought that we meant we were going to take all of our emergent bilingual students and put them in one school and segregate them by themselves. And they were not understanding that via surveys. And so it took a lot of conversation with some of our parent liaisons, a lot of our staff members to explain that's not what we're talking about doing by saying we're unifying everyone in one school. So I think if we are going to open it up and just have it on a Chromebook sitting, we would need to have staff members or have somebody standing there to explain to them this is what this survey is, why it's important and what it's asking you. Not leading people, but because I guarantee you there are families at King who have not been paying attention to this at all, because it just doesn't impact them in the same way that it does a couple of our other populations. So
Yeah,
asking
and
them
the-
to just sit down and we also are going to be competing with, Kim, is the 5 Essentials still open next week?
Oh goodness.
So that's the other thing, is we're asking families to take the
Survey
5
fatigue.
Essential survey at parent-teacher conferences.
And that's one of the things our report
We have
card
to
is
take
graded
the-
on
yeah.
is how much response we get back from the 5 essentials.
Right, we've been monitoring those results very closely. The good news is on the student piece, we're doing very well. Not all of our schools, but most are at the 95% threshold that's necessary to get their full percentage points that goes towards the sliver of the pie on that designation. However, the family piece, You have to have 20% of your families. That doesn't go towards your school designation, but it's reported on your school report card. And we're not where we need to be across the board on that yet. So just something to consider there.
So we'd already asked principals to have computers out for that purpose. So, I don't know, John and I could talk about that a little bit. Like maybe we can have 2 stations. And
There
just
might also
see
be an opportunity at the second or the third
public input.
public input night that if we have more people there, maybe we can look for better ways to recruit people to that event, and then we could get input
That's a
there
really
as
good
well.
idea. Maybe we could kind of mobilize our liaisons to have people come to that in-person event. Because I do feel like having an in-person conversation with someone and explaining it to them in person is way better than just sending them a survey link. So if we could get more of our families to come next Tuesday to the in-person event, I think you're right. That is going to have much more impact.
I assure you, if this survey were the key for us to decide something, if we put a goal to say, okay, we have to have at least 50% of the population of the community impact in order for us to pass, we will be more creative to get it. Because
I've been
then we have a
superintendent for
challenge.
5 years, and all the surveys we've sent out combined, we've never gotten 50% of response from the whole district. I'm just being really honest. That I know that's not great to say that, but it's true, unfortunately. Like when we were doing the equity audit sessions, I mean, we had focus group nights where we were trying to engage people in these small groups to get their input in person, and we had sessions of 10 people at a time. 2 people would show up, or 3 people would show up, and so. Yes, what'd you say?
I said one of the times nobody showed up.
Yeah, we had sessions where we had 10 people sign up and 0 people showed up. And so that is even like a small group, getting people to talk about their barriers and, their concerns about equity within the district. So that is another way that we've tried to engage people outside of just surveys.
Dr.
So,
Avery
yeah,
Tatum.
go ahead, Paulina.
Sorry. Oh, that's loud. With advertising for that, were you able to put ads for example, in cafes and libraries and places people go, or on media, you can pay certain websites that people commonly use, for example, people pay Instagram or YouTube or whatever to put advertisements out more into the community to reach people who are farther out, or
Sure.
put it in multiple different languages and flyers and things everywhere, because a lot of people don't visit the school websites or look at the school emails or answer the schools when they call them. So
Sure.
yeah.
And that is all great, but I think the group the people who are going to respond to that are the people we're already hearing from. So I think what we need to do is we need to find a way to tap into the families, like our emerging bilingual families that we're not hearing from, and our Black families that we're not hearing from.
I feel like you could do that by also putting it in cultural centers, places where people from that cultural element go, so
Sure,
mosques or temples, or churches that are just in Spanish, where they just give Spanish services, or places like that. I know that there's a lot of people that go to only Spanish churches who are very involved in activities in the community, but they don't often do things more than that, leadership roles, or interested in district things, because they don't know about it.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we did do at the third public input night, would it make sense to just add on to this survey, or to kind of reset the results so we could compare? Because I think they'll have a slightly different concept map that took some of the feedback from the first sessions. So maybe some of the answers, particularly about Area P, that people had comments would now be resolved.
So that's a Jenna question. So do we open up the exact same survey, Jenna, and try to get more responses, or I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, and that might be something we just kind of troubleshoot either way. I think there's probably pros and cons to either side. We could reopen the exact same survey, but I think what John was saying, if we have a new concept map that takes some of the feedback from those first 2 nights, we would want to make sure that's the latest to receive future comments on. To also hopefully indicate that feedback that was received in those first 2 nights and that first survey was valid and was taken into consideration into the evolution of the process. So maybe a similar format, so like same questions that were asked so that the results are more comparable, but a new survey in the way that the maps have been updated is my kind of first thoughts on that question.
So then you'll end up with some of the same people revoting because it's a new questions, new concept.
So then would you merge the two, or would you say, here's survey 1, here's survey 2?
I think they have to stay disaggregated.
Yeah, separated.
Probably, yep.
Okay, so we are going to go ahead and move forward with public input number 3, which unfortunately the board members have a special meeting that night and are not going to be able to attend because that was the only night we could schedule that special hearing that we need to have that night. So we will continue to push forward with that, and then we'll try to do what we can to get our principals to kind of get the word out, get our parent liaisons to get as many people there in person, because unfortunately even the public input nights that Sherry, you were at night 1, I think Paul was at both nights maybe. It was very heavily white, very few African Americans, maybe a couple of biracial families, a couple of our Congolese family members, but again, very small in number when compared to some of our white parents, staff members, and community members. So again, if we could get more of a diverse group to the meeting next week, that would be great. I'll reach out to Ms. Turner and Ms. Jackson at Dr. Williams and King and find out about how they are going to be doing their 5 essential survey, and maybe we can tag on to it or something and have a person there and ask people to do both. I didn't take the survey, but what is the time? About 10 minutes maybe, Jenna? I don't know, 10 minutes if any of you guys took it, 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. And the 5 essentials is, how long is 5 essentials, Kim? It's a nice long survey. No, for parents, parent-teacher conference. Yeah, it's pretty long. Yes, it is long. I didn't have to do it this year. I don't have a kid in school now. But, okay, so we'll do what we can. And then Jenna and Rob are set to present to the board on the 2nd. I don't know that we would have time to share those results before the meeting on the 2nd, other than if we just shared them via email, maybe.
That's the only way we do.
Yeah, I don't know how else to get you that information prior to their presentation on the 2nd, when they bring a recommendation or their best input of all the information pulled together at the April 2nd meeting.
Sure. So I guess I have a couple of questions with regards to what's going to be presented as at the next public input session, and then what's going to be presented at the board on April 2nd. So you said there's going to be revisions to the maps that are going to be shown at the next public input section. Will it still be the 2 concepts, or will it be a single concept based on the prior public input?
Well, the plan right now is still both concept 1 and concept 2. So still the 2 maps, but both having some small revisions that came out of public input and the survey comments to better align with some community values and some other just benefits that we were able to do while still keeping within the boundary guidelines.
Okay. And then what is the plan for what's going to be presented to the board then on April 2nd at our first meeting?
I think that's sort of up for kind of discussion based on this final public input, if it goes down to narrowing down from 2 concepts to 1 concept, versus if we take both concepts to you guys for that discussion. I'm not exactly sure where that's going to land, because I think that's going to be hoping that based on these potential revisions that we're making, we can narrow down more of the consensus with the public input to probably narrowing it down to one, but
Sure.
I don't want to put myself in a box there if we do end up taking both concepts to you
So
guys.
the issue I have with narrowing the choice to one map presented to the board on April 2nd would be implicit in that is a choice of where the dual language program is placed, right? And that has to be a board decision because there are multiple considerations with regards to the placement of that. I mean, for example, if Thomas Paine were chosen to be the location of the dual language program, we would have to then consider accommodations for the amenities that were made in Thomas Paine for the cross-categorical program, which to make those same accommodations at Yankee Ridge would cost a substantial amount of money. So I don't want an external committee, I guess, making that choice instead of the board.
Perfect. That's great feedback for us to hear to kind of plan for that best meeting for April 2nd.
Anybody else?
The format we discussed today would be very similar. So we'll have a map up. We'll have Rob is going to come again in person, and he will share an updated presentation to show the changes to both maps and what that change would mean in terms of enrollment projections, demographic information for every school. And then we'll have handouts available so people can see that in real time in person next Tuesday. And then there'll be, again, a Q&A time, and then a time for us to kind of break off in small groups and talk to people more one-on-one or in small groups. So we'll basically follow the exact same format that we follow for input night 1 and 2.
Anyone else?
Jenna, do you feel like you have what you need to begin to talk about to put together the April 2nd information? Okay.
And maybe we can just kind of circle back on what that final, more so for the survey for opening up for the 26th. But I think that's good. We can work towards that.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
Moving on, we have a list of action items under our consent agenda. If it's all right with the board, I would like to pull out consent agenda 11.5 for a separate vote. So let's start reading off our consent agenda. First off, our minutes from our February 20th business meeting, our February 26th special meeting, February 27th district parent-teacher advisory committee meeting, and our March 5th study session. 11.2 are our bills and checks. Ed fund bills for $787,000. O&M fund bills for $230,000. Transportation fund bills for $316,000. Working cash bonds for $114,000. School facility occupancy tax for $185,000. Tort for nearly $8,000. Payroll, salary, and benefits for $4.9 million. Urbana adult education for $116,000. There's a list of personnel items in our packets that need to be approved. Interfund loans. The following loans are required to cover the necessary operating costs of the school district until the next meeting. Working cash fund to O&M for $500,000. Working cash fund to transportation for $500,000. 11.6 is an IHSA membership renewal. 11.7 is our UIUC intergovernmental agreement. It's a 3-year agreement between the school district and the University of Illinois for the Orchard Downs area. Resolution authorizing the directing and sale of disposal of property in accordance with state law. These are UHS library books and a 2009 GMC Savannah van. There is a new activity account for the engineering club at Urbana High School. That is 11.9. Does anyone wish to pull one of these red consent items off the consent agenda?
Which one did you pull?
I pulled 11.5 to be voted on separately and discussed separately. Anyone wish to make a motion then for the consent agenda? That was red.
I move for approval with the 11.5 pull.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Member Baxley?
Yes.
Member Jones?
Yes.
Member Staton?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes. Vice President Exum?
Yes.
President Pulowski?
Yes, motion passes. Now let's go to 11.5, our administrative personnel item. Angie, would you like to provide some context for us?
Sure. Craig and Emily, you want to come on up? In early February, the Leal principal vacancy was posted, and staff, families, and students could share feedback regarding what they wanted in their next leader. All stakeholders who wanted to participate in the process could do so. Interviews were held at Leal School on Wednesday, March 6, where Mr. Craig Keir was the unanimous choice to serve as the next principal at Leal Elementary School. Craig Keir will enter his 25th year of education and has been a successful principal for 16 years. For the past 6 years, Craig has led Carrie Busey Elementary School in Champaign Unit 4. During this time, Carrie Busey has been recognized as an exemplary school 3 times and named U.S. News and World Report Best Elementary School for the past 2 years. Previously, Craig led an elementary school in Highland Park, Illinois, and began his career in Grays Lake, Illinois as a 4th grade teacher. Also served as an assistant principal and principal of a new construction K-8 school. Mr. Keir is excited to join the wonderful Leal school community and Urbana School District under Dr. Ivory Tatum's leadership. Also, in early February, the Leal assistant principal vacancy was posted and interviews were held at Leal School on Friday, March 8th, where Mrs. Emily Riley was selected as the next assistant principal beginning in late July. Mrs. Riley began her teaching career in Bloomington School District 87, where she worked in classrooms from kindergarten through 8th grade. Following her start in Bloomington, Miss Riley joined Peoria Public Schools as a 3rd grade teacher. In 2017, she moved to Urbana, Champaign area and began teaching at Carrie Busey Elementary in Unit 4. Mrs. Riley holds a Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education with an endorsement in Language Arts. She's a Master of Education in Education Policy and Leadership from the University of Illinois. Emily is also excited to join the Leal family under Mr. Craig Keir's leadership. We have a staff meet and greet lunch scheduled this Friday, March 22nd, in the staff lounge at Leal. Later this spring, we will host a Popsicles with the Principal event where the students and families can meet our new principal and assistant principal at Leal, pending formal board approval. I could not be more excited.
Thank you so much, Angie. Board members, is there a motion for the floor to approve these administrative personnel items?
I move for approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Member Staton?
Yes.
Member Baxley?
Yes.
Member Jones?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes. Vice President Exum?
Yes.
President Pulowski?
Yes, congratulations and welcome to you both. You can say a word. Please go ahead.
Simple as that. Well, thank you guys for having us here today. Greatly appreciate it. I know driving over here was reflecting on my career in education, and while it's been in the classroom up until now, moving forward, the overall sense of pride is what I feel as an educator, and so building that rapport with my students, watching them grow, getting to collaborate with staff, those are some big things that stand out with me, as well as those everlasting relationships with families, and I'm really hopeful that I can continue that work as I join the Leal learning team.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I know the most proud moments in my career are when I develop others, right? And so I think Emily Riley is our assistant principal, and soon she'll be a superstar in our district, in Urbana School District 116. And she's just a wonderful person. And so I'm so glad I can have this opportunity with her. Thank you for saying it's 25 years, but I'm really not that old, so I appreciate that. But it's a hard decision to leave Carrie Busey. Carrie Busey is a wonderful place. We were very successful in a variety of ways, and I think we're successful because of the students and staff and the community all coming together for the students. And I'm so excited to be under Jennifer Ivory Tatum's leadership. I know it's the reason I came to one of the main reasons I came to Champaign when she was on my interview team for Carrie Busey, and I'm excited to get the opportunity to work with you and collaborate with you and your team and this wonderful school district moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's very kind. looking forward to great things next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. I was just
Yes.
going to say, please go.
Okay. So we do have individual action item tonight for gifts. The family of H.
What? I was going to share that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Because this is a previous Thomas Paine family, and so was I. And the family of H.Y. and May Lou would like to celebrate a special milestone by giving a gift of $50,000 to help Urbana High School graduates continue their education. And Mr. Liu had said, our family moved from Taiwan to Urbana in 1973. So it was our family's 50th anniversary of moving to Urbana in 2023. Urbana is our hometown. All 4 of our kids finished their education in Urbana. There is no other place like Urbana for us to remember on this planet.
Do you want to mention there also our donor, like their donors for the playground?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have done
They
a
have
lot of
for many years.
For many years, worked with Kay Graybo, and they've been great donors to Thomas Paine, and they were significant donors in the interactive playground, the adaptive playground that we have at Thomas Paine. So was the Lou family, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read the rest of them. Laura Lyon donated a Selmer alto saxophone to Urbana School District. Stephen and Kanita Fay donated $50 to help supply love baskets being made for USD 116 homeless students at the middle and elementary level. Erlyn Elby donated $1,000 to the Urbana High School boys basketball program. Wow, some generous folks this time. Ruth E. Wyman Law Office, LLC, donated $100 to Urbana High School. Fisher National Bank donated $750 to the Urbana High School wrestling program. And Carol Lichtensteiger donated $1,000 to Tiger Academy to purchase sports balls and support the food fund. Wow. Is there a motion to accept these gifts and send out thank yous to the donors?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. There is a special executive meeting on our docket, which is a week from tonight, correct? May 26th.
March 26th.
That's the right date, March 26th. And that 5:30, and it's here, correct? Oh, that's right. It's at 1101 East University for the purpose for student discipline. Superintendent's report.
Okay, so I did want to have a short little discussion about the board vacancy. As you know, when we discussed this during our board report at our last meeting, we've spent some time trying to connect over spring break with the League of Women Voters facilitators. So we were able to get in touch with them, and unfortunately the dates that the board gave us to pass on did not work for the facilitators. So the only availability that they were able to give us was for Tuesday, April 9th. So I'm hoping, I know that wasn't a date that we discussed as a board, so it is a Tuesday. Again, it isn't a public meeting, so board members are just kind of, in the audience, and they run it, and we just kind of watch. But we would host it here at Tiger Academy. The last time we had a forum led by the League of Women Voters, we started at 6 p.m.
I did some research with Lola's position. It was on June 5th at 5:30.
Oh,
the forum.
The times.
5:30 was the start time. It was a forum, but then also exec session, and then they appointed the person
at the end.
At the end, but then they didn't take the oath until the next meeting.
Yep.
So yeah, I think I'd like to repeat that process if possible.
If we can start that early, if people can be here by 5:30. Well, if you want to hear the questions, the forum would begin at 5:30, and then hopefully board members would be sitting and kind of watching that. We go into exec session, and there are very specific questions that we have some set questions that we've used every time we've brought in a new candidate. We also have taken questions from the public. So on here we have the public can submit questions for both the board to ask in closed, or for the Q&A forum led by the League of Women Voters. So if people have specific questions that they would like to submit, they just submit them to contact us. So if we could follow that same process, starting at 5:30 for the forum. Tricia was available at that time, correct, Lori? Okay. And then just plan on, I don't know how many candidates we would have. That was the second part of what I wanted to kind of bring up. So originally, when we closed applications on March 27th, we did that because the original date that we shared with them for the forum was April 3rd, which they weren't available for. So because we would now be moving the forum to a week later, is the board interested in extending the application acceptance window another week? Right now we have 2 applicants. We could extend the application collection date to Wednesday, April 3rd. That just gives us a chance to collect more applications.
We have 2 at-large applications.
We have 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 1 that has been returned and 1 that has been picked up. Okay, so hopefully we will have 2 candidates soon, by March 27th. However, just to give us an opportunity to have more people apply, are we interested in just extending it and maybe to April 2nd, April 3rd? Normally what we do once we close it is we send, I have from Tricia, she has some very specific questions. So each candidate is able to provide a statement that they put in writing. They're able to have an intro while they introduce themselves. So we tell them that so they can prep for it prior to the forum. So if we close the applications on April 3rd, that would be plenty of time for someone to write their closing statement and write their opening statement over the weekend and have that ready for the 9th. So
Sounds good to me.
what's the board's thought on that?
Yeah, especially because we were gone last week.
We were out
Some
for
people were
spring
out of
break.
town.
A lot of
Right.
people were gone last
Yeah.
week, yeah. Is everyone okay with that? We can adjust those dates on our website. So we'll change this slide to say applications will be accepted until April 3rd at 4:30. And then once we have applications, we'll then share all the League of Women Voter criteria and, the expectations for what the forum looks like.
What are
Okay.
we doing as far as advertisement of it?
So
This
it's
one?
been on social media. We have a banner on our website. We've shared it a few times via email. I think we've sent it to all the principals to post, especially in the Leo area. I'm trying to think of what else do you know what else Catherine has done? I guess I can't think of. Yeah, I think that might be it. So we can maybe try to do some more.
Yeah, she could do another push and maybe try to, if there's a way to target the individuals in that district, that sub-district.
The Luna listserv, if it hasn't been hit
Well,
already.
it is a really unique, if you saw the press release that we sent out, it is bounded by a very kind of
No, it's
tricky,
true. It is.
Since we redistricted. So
It's
we
not
could
just-
maybe
it's
do
not
a
just- it's
mailing.
not
I
just
don't
one.
know, like another way that we could. Is there a way we could pull all those addresses? I don't know how to do that. So
Well, it's not just parents though,
Yeah, we
right?
would just have
It's
parents
community
that way.
members.
We wouldn't have-
It's
yeah.
community members. We shouldn't favor
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
constituency in
I
the
don't- yeah.
area over another.
So we could also maybe send it to CI Living or maybe to a couple radio shows. I don't know. Some other people.
Just whatever we could do to push it again, since we're gonna open it an extra week.
Sure, we
way
can do that.
Make sure people aren't saying they didn't know and we didn't try every avenue that we could.
Absolutely.
What is the League of Women Voters?
So they actually are just a group of really dedicated women in our community who, Kanitha Faye is one of the leaders, I guess, of the group. And, you know, she does a
Mhm.
lot of work at the high school and is really involved in getting students to vote. So basically, because they are an electoral body kind of group
Well,
of
they're
people,
non-biased, too.
non-biased too, yeah.
Voter education and awareness and forums. And
Yeah. So what it looks like is basically just kind of like a debate like you would see for the presidency on television. So all the candidates come that night. There's one person, they have, nobody knows the questions in advance, only a couple of them. And then each person has an opportunity to answer the question, and they get a certain amount of time to answer. So it is very much like a debate that you see on television.
And
What are
Like
the
a-
candidates for?
for the Dr. Hasanaka's open board seat to replace to replace him. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Wait. So what?
He resigned his seat.
Last meeting or something?
2 meetings ago.
2 meetings ago.
Oh, I didn't.
Catherine responded. She also sent it out to all the, in addition to the socials and the mailings, to all the media outlets, and it did get picked up at least by WCIA, and she thinks also the News Gazette.
Okay.
I do remember seeing it on WCIA now because they also have a board seat open in Unit 4, and they ran our
Yeah,
opening,
Jamar's seat.
a couple times. So.
Yeah, the League of Women Voters also runs the candidate forums when us up here are running a contested election, and I've had to do that a couple times.
Providing you have an opponent.
Yes,
Yeah.
which I've had 2 times.
If you don't have an opponent, then it doesn't happen because I didn't do it.
No.
Correct.
as I say,
That's part of their
then you don't
policy
have to
is they do not
choose.
offer a candidate forum for people running unopposed.
They also had an election at Read Across America for the children to learn how to vote, and they
Oh,
elected, I
fun.
believe it was the parrot. The children elected the parrot as their favorite animal. So,
Oh, fun.
yeah, I recently became a member as well because I just wanted to help register voters and make sure that they knew about
But
their voting opportunities. so.
They do great important work
Yes.
all across the country, and the chapter here is very active.
Very active.
So if there is no more, if there is only one candidate, then it's not happening, and then we have to be here. on
Well,
February
we anticipate we'll have 2 because another person has picked up their application.
But you're correct. If we only have one,
If we only have
if we
one.
only have one submitted application, which is the current state of things,
Mm-hmm.
then there will be no candidate forum, and we'll just go ahead and approve the person
Yes.
who applied, and we're grateful for that
Mhm.
person. Sorry. So, Dagus, do you have direction then?
No, that was it.
Oh, that was it.
We'll, that wasn't my only superintendent update thing, but that was the, what I needed feedback on. So next, we have the Leo Science Fair that happened right before spring break. So here are a few pictures of students working with some U of I student groups, volunteers, families, teachers. So about 200 people came to support the Leo scientists for that event. So very widely attended and lots of great science projects. Girls Soccer Showcase is April 11th. Our girls who we just saw won in Paulina's Student Ambassador Report will be having a soccer showcase out at the U of I field. Where the U of I girls soccer team plays at 6 o'clock on April 11th.
Yeah, I went to that last year. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is
it
really
really
good.
is so much fun, and it's a really supportive environment for all of the girls.
Conferences we've talked about, March 28th and 29th, student-led conferences. If you're an elementary family member or a middle school, contact your student's teacher or the main office. If you have a student at the high school, you can go online through Skyward Family Access and sign up for your conferences electronically.
Is it still student-led for elementary schoolers?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Elementary attendance maps, we just talked about this quite a bit, so I don't think we need to talk about it anymore. That's going to be next Tuesday at Urbana High School. And upcoming dates, conferences, and kindergarten registration, April 24th. So that's also one of those, we moved the date of this back a little bit to align with the board's decision-making process around redistricting. So I know a lot of our incoming kindergarten families are very anxious to find out where their kids are going to be going to school. So hopefully we don't have to change that date. So, because we've changed it once already. So right now it is April 24th at Lincoln Square Mall, where we always have it, 10:30 to 5:30.
Thank you. We do have a series of FOIAs that were completed since our last meeting. Karen Garcia from Smart Procure for all current employee staff contact information. Brittany Frost for any demographic information that may include socioeconomic status, free and reduced lunch eligibility, and race ethnicity data for each elementary school under each of the plans, Concept 1 and 2, and any other concepts derived. Any directive or input parameters given to RSP and Associates LLC related to redistricting Urbana's elementary attendance boundaries. Any maps, concepts, or options which may include the pros and cons of any of these concepts presented to any Urbana School District Administrator, member, or board member by our RSP and Associates LLC. From Brittany Frost, any information regarding present or projected overcrowding issues and concerns at Urbana Middle School and plans for the space that will be vacated by moving the 6th graders to the Wiley building. And Chris Evans, the numerical number, not names, of how many Urbana police officers are currently volunteering at Urbana Middle School, and how many Urbana police officers are currently volunteering at Urbana High School. And lastly, a pair from Tom Schroeder. All records pertaining to the creation, alteration, or revision of attendance units that shall be open to the public, and all relevant records, including any in the possession of RSP and Associates or personal possession of district employees. It is now time for board reports. Anybody have a board report for tonight? Go ahead, Sherry.
I watched two webinars this month from the Illinois Association for School Boards, and I just wanted to share it. You can now watch it on their website, and they're regarding the Illinois Report Card, and they gave lots of information about how to understand and what each thing means, so, and all the different categories. So I certainly would recommend that for people who want to know more about it.
All right, anyone else? Go ahead.
I met with members of the community mainly from Yankee Ridge on Saturday and Rick's Bakery. They have some concerns, and they also give some proposals, and I suggest them that to get some information and if they have any other solution for those. They don't want that be in Yankee Ridge. So we have a nice conversation. There was 4 people in there. I was scared, but in the end we were friends. So that was a good way for me. That I'm doing it. This is new thing for me. It's intimidating, but it was good. And then on Monday we went with Paul to Thomas Paine, and where I came a little late, I guess, and I didn't have opportunity to see a lot of teachers. But we went to Yankee Ridge as well. So.
All right, thank you. Your turn. Anyone else?
Just like to give a shout out to one of the teachers, Mr. Gonzalez. Over the break, I had a student that thought that spring break meant he wasn't going to see his teacher again. 3rd grader, and he was crying. And Mr. Gonzalez told him it was just spring break, and he would even give him his phone number. So.
Oh, so sweet. All right, anyone else? Okay, so I do have a couple things I'd like to kind of initiate a board discussion on. So we were emailed this week survey results that were done externally by a group of active and concerned parents, and I think Ben and I anyway have given requested that we discuss them publicly in a, if not tonight, in a future public meeting with their participation. So now typically that's done by that group utilizing citizen statements time to present their information to the board, and then the board later discusses it, but it doesn't really provide an opportunity for us to engage that group with regards to if we have questions, we can't have a back and forth with them. So given given the fact that it really feels like we haven't had like a conversation with the public. I want to do this, but I am also concerned about the precedent it sets with regards to. I mean, for example, if we look at the COVID time, if we had a group of people who were anti-mask and wanted to present survey data around those kinds of positions, that it's not what's. I know, and exactly. If we do this once, you have to kind of do it for everybody. But it isn't like we're lucky in this town, though. We have a bunch of people who are specialists with regards to survey data and doing things in an unbiased way, right? So I'm inclined for us to at least have a conversation around the data and at our next meeting myself. But I don't know if anybody else. I wanted to hear your thoughts on all these things. I've been struggling with this topic, over the past since the request was made, because I think it's important for us to hear the concerns and to talk about the data. But I'm also concerned about setting a precedent without board policy around it as well. So I just wanted to initiate a discussion on that and see what people had to say.
I concur. That would be valuable information. It would be a good discussion, but it's also a slippery slope, opening that door up. So we should think about how that we can forestall any requests for other kind of conversations. That would be, yeah. But I concur. We should have some sort of conversation. I'm not sure how we facilitate it outside of a committee, though.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, go ahead. That's okay.
Yeah, I have the same struggle that the public. I don't know how to address how to pass along the communication between the community to the board. I know there is a lot of things that I'm learning about the communication about the board, but I feel that one of the things that the community is not sure about it is that there is no dialogue. And when there is no dialogue, then they just feel dialogue.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Communication.
Yeah. I mean,
and there is a lot, like they come, they talk, and we either watch them or we either work. So it doesn't seem like we are engaging with them. And like, for example, today the teachers that came, I wanted to first congratulate them to be strong and brave to come here as a group. Also, it really turned me down because I was like, I understand their position. I mean, it seems like it's a really cool group. We went there and we had opportunity to talk, but also I wish we have a way to communicate back, like, I don't know, have that conversation. It will feel more natural, and maybe we could establish why we are doing this. There is a lot of things that I just don't know how the board can't decide without listening to that, And I know this, we were talking about the needs of the district. We see the bigger picture. It's not just one school, it's the whole district. What is the needs of the population? What is the needs of the students? And what is the need of the community? And focusing on only one school needs is going to be really hard, because we can also hear how the dwelling goal teachers come and they express their needs, and also we focus on that. But we have to establish that communication with them back and forth, It feels not natural.
Yeah.
Regarding
So go ahead, Sherry.
So regarding information, I mean, we all receive information from parents and staff, and their individual concerns and opinions about their own situation, about how they see the community, and a lot of them bring up information that might not be true. And we might talk to them or email them back with information that we feel we've investigated, we have the information, and yet they might not receive it. But if it's just one person, it might be better if everybody would hear that as well. Different things that why isn't this other school is being included in this change? And I think that we need to be very clear about what if we did make that change, what the impact of the community or the whole district would be. So I think it's a good idea to have the information, to have this conversation so that true information can be shared and not just people's opinions.
Oh, okay. Anyone else? I guess so the question is, for our next meeting, I think the idea of having, I'm sorry, I'm struggling. So, question one, we try to phrase this. So should there be an action item on the next agenda as kind of like a board report to have this data presented by that group? And I think the answer to that is, or should it be done in citizen statements? That's kind of where I'm
I
going.
think it's a citizen statement. I mean, I don't think that we've ever allowed any, we have people do
We have
surveys all
not.
the time.
And
It's never been a part of an official board kind of report or an agenda item to have a group that has on their own just decided they wanted to do a survey, come in and present it. I think that everyone has gotten the information, and they certainly can continue coming and speaking as a. I just think opening up that window when we haven't. I mean, we didn't do that for Wiley. We didn't do it for any other groups that have had surveys.
So
to now say we're.
All right. So in order, in an effort to make this more of a conversation instead of people talking at each other, because that's kind of what citizen statements are, right? They talk at us, we listen, and then maybe in board reports we can come around and talk back. So maybe in an effort to try to get something closer to a dialogue, I would ask board members to send questions they would maybe want answered in the presentation given during citizen statements, so that at least we can have something closer to a dialogue. I know we're kind of hamstrung by this format.
To the email.
Right. So the email came with survey data in it.
Right.
So if you have specific questions on how it was collected, about the data itself, I mean, at least there's something closer to it.
And it's not to down that group.
Absolutely not.
It's just to try
There are a
to
lot of
think
smart
about the
people in
big
that group.
picture and being fair and thinking about what we've allowed and not allowed for other groups that are just as great, that have asked the same thing of us.
Okay.
So
Can we-
I think just the consistency and even maybe the guidance of our
Can we at
attorneys.
least vote for? Can we open as a vote for the board? Because yes, I heard you. But I feel also that it's been like 10 years before all these things happening. So right now we are doing more changes, and it's affecting more people than before. I wasn't here when it was Wiley, but I feel like because of the situation or the gravity of the situation, we should be flexible and open that conversation, because it's what they want. And I feel like that group of people is, it has a lot of influence in the community. So if we really have that conversation with them, maybe it's going to ease and resolve other, it's going to resolve some questions that maybe we can use back and forth emailing. The rest of the population is not going to know. The rest of the community is not going to know what we're talking about. But if you open, everybody's going to know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment, which is why I'm so torn about this. But the other side of it is if we offer that opportunity to this group who is really smart, well organized, and did a lot of work, right? Does that mean we have to offer the same opportunity to every single group who wants to do that?
There is always an exception of the rules.
Right.
I mean, something I learned in the United States that they said is always exception of the rules. And there is always flexibility, and you can open windows. And right now, the community is what they need. And I feel like, I don't know how that works, I'm still learning, but being rigid is not going to help, because we have this, and they're going to come with another survey, and misinformation is going to come there, and we just created more chaos. That just open a window, talk, be clear, and then close it.
And you'll be prepared for all of those meetings and all of those surveys that come to stay and put in those hours for. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I mean that is really opening a door, and I'm not sure if you know what could happen from that.
Every decision you make.
every decision. Yeah.
Yeah, I
There's
think
always going to be people that
Okay.
agree and disagree with every decision we make, and if each time somebody's disagreeing, they decide I want to go out and do a survey. I mean, we're opening that door to now say we're going to put you on our agenda and we're going to have a conversation about it.
I mean,
I don't think for
it-
the next 5 years we're going to redistricting, move to one school, create one
So
other
we're
school.
then going to
so-
pick and choose? Is that
No,
what you're
it's just be
saying? Some groups
flexible.
will be able
It's
to
just be
have this
flexible
conversation
to the
and others will
situation,
not?
I
well,
guess. I don't
that's
know.
just it.
Yeah, I mean, that's my bigger concern. It's
I-
not the dialogue itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a necessary dialogue, but I'm concerned about the precedent.
Well, I'm thinking about what Tori said too, as far as it's never been done before, but that we're asking the community to move forward and to make changes. So maybe there's some change that we have to make as far as how we interact or how we discuss.
Well,
So I don't know exactly what that
I
is,
I
but
think that, I mean, that's the next bullet point, once we get past this discussion, that I want to broach. Anybody else weigh in on this? So Colin, I think the best thing to do, I guess, is citizen statements, and I'm going to encourage the board members to interact with your group before you present next meeting, if that's okay. All right. Moving on to the second bullet point with regard to how do we set up a structure board policy to help with community engagements. I think we're hearing this over and over. We've heard it over and over for the past 2 years. So what can we do in a concrete fashion that has board policy wrapped around it in order to engage the community? And I was approached by the group who I thought came up with a great concept, which is something called the Special Committee for Community Feedback, something that's a board subcommittee that can have members of the public on it that since it's a board subcommittee, but when they meet, it would also be an open meeting, right? Because every subcommittee of the board has a subject to the OMA as well, but they could do things to have community-wide surveys, just to get the community more involved in community engagement in multiple ways. We can also make sure that we have representatives from our different major subgroups as well, in terms of the Spanish-speaking community, the French community, the African-American community, etc. I have a set of slides here I'll forward to you that were put together by Colin, which I thought really had a lot of great points to it, but it's just trying to initiate a discussion amongst us about something we want to look at going forward. This is the kind of thing I think would also be good to come out of our strategic planning process as well. But this is a concept that I think has some a lot of merit, frankly.
So I wish that had been shared with me before you talked about it publicly. One of the things that I wanted to do as superintendent as part of the strategic planning was to start a superintendent advisory committee that would have representation from every school that I would meet with monthly. So if the board is wanting to do something like that, then I think we can talk about that. And I can have a separate group maybe that I meet with that I was going to kind of generate an application process and have a couple representatives from each building that I would meet with monthly.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
has the board ever had meetings or some type of group with the PTA representatives?
So there was talk a long time ago about the PTAs getting together and forming what was called a PTA council.
We've tried to do that, but
And
recently it's been really hard because we only have a couple schools that have a really high functioning PTA. Yankee Ridge is one of them, Thomas Paine is one of them, Leal is one of them.
But if they
So-
have members from each PTA, I mean, it doesn't have to be a big group, but just a member or so to represent, and then they could bring back information to their
Sure.
school, whichever way works for them.
Yeah, if we could get each group to get a functioning PTA with actual real membership, who would be able to have representatives that would be willing to have like an executive PTA council. We've tried to do that multiple times. Maybe these conversations would energize people to be able to do that now. So.
anybody else want to chime in on this concept?
I think there's a community-led sort of committee, I guess, should be self-organizing in a way where we are hands off, because I think any input we have in a committee like that just doesn't look like it's independent.
Well, yeah, but if it's going to be a board committee, it can't be done. There's no difference between that than any sort of ad hoc community group.
So we would have to put it together ourselves.
Well, I think I think the board could. This is something that's going to take a while, I think, to
Right,
plan
yeah.
out, right? And it probably something that would come out of the strategic planning process with the community. But it's just it's a concept I thought we could discuss.
Absolutely, I think it's warranted and needed.
We've been hearing over and over again that there's a
Right.
lack of trust,
Right,
that
right.
people don't feel like there's an ability to have a conversation with us. So I'd like to do something concrete to help deal with that issue.
Absolutely.
That's all.
Maybe some ISB and legal.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right about that. We would have to vet. We would have to vet all of that through
What's
best practice
what
and.
we should probably be doing would probably be my suggestion, as opposed to us just.
No, that,
We should.
no,
Yeah.
I understand. I mean, this isn't something that we can do overnight. This is
Yeah.
something that.
And it's a good conversation to have. I mean, I'm not opposed to, talking about it and even having more dialogue ourselves, even if that's going to be at board report time. But I just think when we're changing how we do our business, that's a bigger conversation, and one that we definitely should be looking at some guidance and not just
No, absolutely.
making that decision.
Sure, but I think also we kind of need to change how we do our business.
Yeah.
That's just me. All right. Anybody else? This is a nice conversation. Thank you for engaging me.
Well, thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. We'll see. I guess 4 of you in a week for at the special hearing.